Live from Washington, D.C., Jay Sekulow Live. Phone lines are open for your questions right now. And now, your host, Jordan Sekulow.
A lot of the exposing of the wrongdoing and the political targeting by executive branch agencies in the U.S. government, the federal government, started with our IRS case. And we've got a new documentary, and I think it's so timely. As we head into an election year, as we head into a time we've got this new report coming out about abuse by the government, this time against the President of the United States, a president many of you voted for. It's called Targeting Us. It's our new ACLJ documentary looking at the history and the resolution of the IRS case. You can learn more about this film and all the ACLJ documentary films that we have at ACLJfilms.com. But today, you're actually going to get to see a lot of this film and hear a lot of this film. If you're listening on radio, you're going to get to hear a lot of the film and the content. If you're listening, if you're watching on Facebook or Periscope, you're going to actually get to see some of the film before it's fully released. Now, if you want to find out more about it, again, you go to ACLJfilms.com. But I want to make sure you understand. I just want to make sure you understand that this film, while it is a documentary on what happened to those who targeted the groups that were targeted by the IRS, how the ACLJ fought back in court representing the groups who were targeted because of their conservative beliefs, because of the name of their organization, the lowest learners. Remember this, the heads of the IRS, I think they went through 3 during this time period, different IRS commissioners, and trying to blame this on low-level agents when it was all emanating out of Washington, D.C. with lowest learner's signature on it. They couldn't pull one on us. And we battled, and finally, we won. And our clients got justice. Now, ultimately, the political actors within what is supposed to be one of the most nonpartisan branches of our government, the Internal Revenue Service, got what they wanted. They wanted to try and silence these groups for an election cycle. They did. But let's remember what came out of that. I think their ultimate nightmare, President Donald Trump, who in many ways encapsulates everything the Tea Party was about. Sick of the government, sick of their attitude at the bureaucratic level, drain the swamp. So you're about to hear the new documentary, first time we're putting forward more than just the trailer, Targeting Us, our new ACLJ film on the history and resolution of the IRS case. Go to ACLJfilms.com to learn more about this film and how you can see the whole thing, but also support the work of the ACLJ. We have our matching challenge right now. Double the impact of your donation at ACLJ.org. That's ACLJ.org. But share this with your friends and family right now. You're about to see Targeting Us, our new ACLJ documentary.
It is a critical time for our nation, and the American Center for Law and Justice is on the front lines, defending life and liberty, engaging the issues that matter most to you and your family. Whether it's working to protect Americans from the dangers of radical Islam and the persecution of Christians, to defending life at the U.S. Supreme Court, to protecting your religious and constitutional freedoms, we could not do this work without you, without your support. And now your support can really make a tremendous difference. For a limited time, you can participate in the ACLJ Matching Challenge. If you make a gift now, it will be doubled. $25 becomes $50. A $100 gift becomes $200. Please stand with the ACLJ right now and call 1-877-989-2255. That's 1-877-989-2255, or go online at aclj.org. Thank you for your support.
Ms. Lerner, why would you say Tea Party cases were very dangerous? On the advice of my counsel, I respectfully exercise my Fifth Amendment right and decline to answer that question.
They knew they were breaking the law. They knew they were violating our rights.
There were some boneheaded decisions out of a
but no
local
mass
office.
corruption.
Not even mass corruption, not even a smidgen of corruption.
It was the tip of the iceberg. It was far worse than even we expected.
The IRS has finally released a list of political groups it has scrutinized.
It was something that no one could believe our government was even capable of doing.
They have way too much power and no accountability.
Never before has the federal government tried to muzzle everyday Americans solely because of their political view.
That is as wrong as it gets.
Lois Lerner knew what was coming, and it wasn't going to be pretty.
We were fighting the United States of America at this point.
We accidentally stumbled into the corruption that is going to be and is the largest scandal in American history.
My name is Kevin Kookogee.
I'm Toby Marie Walker.
Tom Zawistowski.
Eric Wilson.
Mark Kent.
Becky Garrettson.
Kira Waddell.
And this.
And this
is our story.
This is my story.
This is my story.
We had a group in Shelby County, Ohio, that I've had the privilege of representing this county for 20-some years now in one office or another. They came to us and said, look, we think we're getting harassed. We're trying to get our C4 status, and they're asking us all kinds of ridiculous questions. And our staff actually went and met with Lois Lerner. The oversight committee staff and some of our personal staff sat down with Lois Lerner, and she says, no, this is normal. We're not doing anything out of the ordinary. I mean, she just lied to them. And so we decided, you know what, let's just ask the Inspector General to do an investigation. Once the IRS knew that they were caught, that Russell George, the Inspector General, was going to release the report and say targeting took place. Once they knew that was coming, what did they do? Lois Lerner was giving a speech to a bar association meeting here in town, and they had planted questions where they asked her about this. So she tried to get in front of the story, spin the story, because they knew the truth was coming out.
At a lawyers' conference in Washington, Lois Lerner, a senior IRS career employee who oversees tax-exempt organizations, admitted that agency employees singled out particular groups for extra scrutiny, using key words with political overtones.
They used names like Tea Party or Patriots, and they selected cases simply because the application had those names in the title. That was wrong. The IRS would like to apologize for that.
Yeah, the apology, though, was nonsense. I mean, sorry about that, is what she said. For that, we'd like to apologize. I'll never forget that. Could you imagine you're being audited and you tell them, I don't have my receipt. Sorry about that. So, apologizing for unlawful activity may be, good for the soul. It's not good for a legal conclusion. And the fact that they apologized was an admission of wrong. But all they were trying to do at that ABA meeting was get ahead of a problem they knew was about to explode, because we had punctured the balloon and we peeled back the veneer of respectability that the agency had at that point, and they knew what was coming. Lois Lerner knew what was coming.
The government's view and their response at this point was to say, oh, we're sorry. We acknowledge what we did wrong. Well, can you imagine if that was what happened in criminal law? The criminal is caught after murder, after stealing, and says, oh, I'm sorry, Your Honor. Okay. You're off scot-free.
Lerner said the targeting was done by low-level employees who were motivated not by partisan politics, but by a desire to be more efficient in identifying groups that don't qualify for tax-exempt status.
We had a shortcut in the process that the staff did. It wasn't appropriate.
And Lois Lerner apologized and said, oh, sorry, we targeted him. We didn't know. That came out of Cincinnati. We knew those were lies. We knew those were lies because I kept every traffic report from our website, every single one. And I know it was Washington, D.C. I know the office, I know the computer, I know the IP address. It just doesn't give me a name. It gives me a physical address. I knew it wasn't out of Cincinnati, and I knew she was lying again. So she lied when she gave the apology.
I have a letter right here from Lois Lerner prior to the date when she suggested that it was rogue agents, asking me for information, telling me that my letter of determination could not be granted. She had inserted herself into the situation when it was convenient. But when she was going to be exposed, all of a sudden she blamed it on the rogue agents in Cincinnati.
I had just received a letter from her. So I knew what she said stopped a year ago had never stopped. It was still going on. And I didn't believe anything that she said. I did not believe that she was innocent. I think that she knew exactly what was going on and that she was one of the ones directing it.
It was something that no one could believe our government was even capable of doing. And now they were admitting it.
The report is coming out this week, the Inspector General report, and it has outrageous conclusions about how organizations seeking tax-exempt status were handled. It shows that not only did Tea Party groups get more scrutiny, but so did a host of other conservative groups that dared to criticize government spending and discuss the national debt.
I have obtained a soon-to-be-released investigative report that shows that the IRS started targeting Tea Party groups more than 3 years ago, and that among the criteria they used was to target groups that were critical of the way the country is being run.
If, in fact, IRS personnel engaged in the kind of practices that have been reported on and were intentionally targeting conservative groups, then that's outrageous. And there's no place for it.
The IRS is saying, we're sorry, we made mistakes, and they were not politically motivated. They blame this all on low-level employees. But Tea Party leaders, they're not buying it. They rejected the apology and demanded the resignation of everyone involved at the IRS. About 75 groups were flagged by the IRS for further review for one reason. Their applications for tax-exempt status contained the words Tea Party or Patriot.
2 rogue agents. That's what the White House tells us were the people responsible for this. In fact, I got a news report from May 15th that says White House aides, 2 rogue IRS employees from Cincinnati were responsible for investigating conservative groups. 2 employees in Cincinnati responsible for the systematic targeting of conservative groups for over 2 years. This administration would have us believe that. This administration, this agency, the very agency charged with enforcing Obamacare, systematically targeted groups who came into existence because they opposed Obamacare, and they started the targeting the very month, March 2010, that Obamacare became law, expects us to believe it was just the work of 2 rogue agents.
So I had a call from a friend of mine who said, Kevin, I'm going to do a test. He said, I'm going to file something. I'm going to file my own C3 application as an organization that shares values, or that at least is in line with what the current political administration believes. And I'm going to tell you whether or not that goes through. And sure enough, it went through within the normal period, 60 days, 2 months, something of that nature, might have been 2 to 3 months, rubber stamped. And that was at the same time that we're learning from the IG report that there was this BOLO list, be on the lookout, BOLO, for organizations that contained any ideas of liberty, sovereignty, family, any kind of dissent against any policies of the Obama administration. Those were targeted and put into this separate bin that had to have extra scrutiny by the IRS. I mean, it's just, again, the stunning nature and the egregiousness of our own government reaching in and deciding, based on what you believe, Mr. Kukaji, we're going to actually apply additional scrutiny to you. This is why it was so unbelievable to so many people. People that would otherwise share our values would say, that couldn't happen in America. And I would have to say, wake up. It's happening right here. Here's the evidence. No, I don't want to believe. They would try to give every other possible explanation rather than looking at the facts and saying, we are being targeted, and there's no other reason than based on our point of view.
We accidentally stumbled into the corruption that is going to be and is the largest scandal in American history.
It is a critical time for our nation, and the American Center for Law and Justice is on the front lines, defending life and liberty, engaging the issues that matter most to you and your family. Whether it's working to protect Americans from the dangers of radical Islam and the persecution of Christians, to defending life at the U.S. Supreme Court, to protecting your religious and constitutional freedoms, we could not do this work without you, without your support. And now your support can really make a tremendous difference. For a limited time, you can participate in the ACLJ Matching Challenge. If you make a gift now, it will be doubled. $25 becomes $50. A $100 gift becomes $200. Please stand with the ACLJ right now and call 1-877-989-2255. That's 1-877-989-2255, or go online at aclj.org. Thank you for your support.
I can't imagine a harder entity to come against than the IRS. Let me tell you, the IRS is a formidable foe.
Oftentimes, this is one of the most feared government institutions in the U.S. They get your taxes, they determine how much you owe, if you owe back taxes, they can seize your wage. I mean, all these things the IRS can do, a lot of power. They know everything about you, basically. So to sue them voluntarily took a very brave group of individuals and organizations that decided, okay, let's do this, ACLJ. We want to fight back for our rights. We want to fight for our recognition and fight for what we deserve from the IRS. Let's take them to court.
There was a serious systematic problem within the IRS that allowed this issue to percolate all the way to the top. And was Lois Lerner was the head of the tax-exempt organization. You had Maine Treasury. There were concerns that it reached into the White House. And the President Obama dismissed this as inconsequential. But ultimately, the way to handle this was court. You had to be in court to get this resolved.
The reason we got into it is because the original reason the Kentucky 912 Project was formed for principle. We felt that our rights were being violated, that we had a constitutional right that wasn't allowed to go forward, and that thanks to the ACLJ, we had a voice now that could fight back, shine a light on what was happening. So even if we didn't get what we deserved, that in the future, other organizations may be empowered to stand up and have that voice.
You can't just say, we're not going to sue. You can't say we're going to just let them trample on our rights. It was time to stand up. And I was proud of the other leaders who did the same.
We're getting ready to go up against our government. We're getting ready to fight the IRS, the Department of Justice, me, and the Kentucky 912 Project. And it was fear because we didn't know retaliation. We didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't know if this meant, every year thereafter I'm going to be audited. Didn't know if, what could happen to us and happen to my little, at that point, 2-year-old. It was fear.
We decided we were going to move forward with the lawsuit, that they can't get away with this, and that if we didn't fight back, who was going to? They would just keep doing this. And future presidents could do this, and future administrations, and we didn't know who started it, but we wanted to find out. So the ACLJ agreed to sue.
I felt angry. I felt that an injustice was being done, and I felt ready to fight.
We are not there to represent ourselves. We weren't really looking for justice for the Tea Parties. What we were there was to make sure that no other American could ever be targeted again by their government for their political beliefs. That was the bigger picture.
Tea Party groups say they're being targeted by the Internal Revenue Service, and they're enlisting the aid of the American Center for Law and Justice.
Jordan, I understand you are hearing new complaints of IRS intimidation. What's going on behind the scenes with this case?
When we filed the initial case last week on behalf of 25 clients, that was historic. And we knew that there would be more people who may want to add, but we didn't know just how many. And we're now looking at somewhere around 100 different contacts have come in. And a couple of them we've just signed on recently as clients who will be amending our lawsuit.
Who came up with this? Why did you have these applications sitting for years, and then all of a sudden you decide right during an election you're going to send out these letters, which frankly, for these small Tea Party groups, pretty intimidating. I've got letters from California, Cincinnati, the District of Columbia, and on it goes. You had institutional incapacity going on inside the IRS, and I think that has made the problem even worse. What they've done is a crime.
So this court case goes on, and it's, again, I have no experience in that. you just can't believe it takes so long to do all this stuff. And I'm bugging Miles and Jordan and Jay Sekulow and all these guys. I'm saying, what's going on? How come? Why is this taking so long?
You just have to remember how this case went. In May of 2013, we filed suit against the IRS in the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia on behalf of all of our clients. But it wasn't until October of 2014, it's a long time for one of these nonprofit organizations, these were small organizations, that the court ultimately rendered a decision on all but 2 of our claims. So in January 2015, we appealed the dismissal and we seek review by the U.S. Court of Appeals. The actual oral argument on the appeal wasn't heard until April 14th of 2016. On August 5th, 2016, the U.S. Court of Appeals rendered its decision in our favor, reversing the district court's dismissal of our claims for injunctive and declaratory relief and remanding the case for further proceedings in the district court. That is not what the IRS wanted. So the parties then engaged in limited discovery before ultimately the IRS entered into a settlement agreement with our clients in October of 2017. The IRS publicly admitting wrongdoing and issued a public apology to our clients for the targeting they were engaged in.
The IRS, what do they say sometimes, late than never, better late than never, now formally apologizing to Tea Party groups over this Obama-era targeting, they said those groups are saying was going on.
It's not just that they're acknowledging the wrongdoing, they've taken action that'll be codified in a court order next week that it never happens again. So there's been a complete change of policy as it relates to the IRS. It's been 3.5 years in litigation. We've had to make a trip up to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia to get the trial court judge reversed, which we were successful at. And the good news is also, which is the really bottom line here, is our clients all got their tax exempt status. Better late than never, yes, and unfortunately it took 3.5 years of litigation. But Neil, some of these clients, you know this, waited 7 years by the time they started to when they got it.
I want them to admit they did wrong, and I want them to apologize in writing. And if they can't apologize in writing, I'm not settling. Now, I know that that some people didn't understand the significance of that, but how many times have you seen the federal government apologize about anything, let alone put it in writing, let alone in a court document? And they also agreed to retrain employees and train new employees about the Constitution and respecting citizens' rights.
What started in 2009 in my living room with my wife and family, the long journey till October of 2017. That's when we finally got the settlement and the IRS admission at that point.
So we were in federal court to get the policy changed, to get the rules and regulations changed, that they were at least what they were going by, so you could stop these targeted inquiries. And we were successful in that, in large part because the IRS ultimately knew their exposure was great here. They violated the statute, they violated the Constitution, they violated our clients' First Amendment rights, they violated the right to freedom of association, they violated the right basically to freedom of the press. They were engaged in an arbitrary and capricious method of trying to harass people that they disagreed with, and we were in front of a federal court, and that federal court was not too sympathetic to the IRS with everything they heard. So the end result was the IRS did the right thing by resolving the case with an injunction that mandated a complete change of the IRS nonprofit tax-exempt work as it relates to issue advocacy organizations. It was one of the most significant wins in the ACLJ's history. To take on the IRS and win at that level is a pretty big deal.
And you look at Jay Sekulow and how many times he was on TV, representing us and speaking to the media and making our case when, again, they kept saying, no, you're never going to win. You're never going to win. No, this is, you have no case. No, you're just making this up. It took a lot of guts to keep pushing back against that. It took a lot of courage for all of us to not let people beat us down and make us want to just give up. And it was a lot of people were like, this is a lot of years. I can't do anymore. But we persevered. And we only persevered because the resources were there. Okay? We only persevered because the ACLJ was there.
I know they put countless hours in on this stuff. I don't even know for how many organizations. I put countless hours in on this stuff. So, I know what kind of work has to be done in order to make this happen. And, I can't thank these guys enough. I really can't.
Said we didn't have that voice. and they gave us the voice. They stood up for us. They fought for us. They were that voice in Washington, D.C. that they had our back type. And they didn't do it for political reasons. They didn't do it for monetary reasons. They did it for the same reasons we were an organization, for the right reasons.
We could have never afforded to do all of this. This would have cost millions of dollars to litigate. We don't have that kind of money. I mean, we were lucky to bring $10,000, $20,000 in the beginning, and then after that, nobody wanted to donate to us. So if we hadn't had the ACLJ there to stand by us, help fight back, and it wasn't just the IRS, and people keep forgetting that. If we didn't have that, I don't know where we'd be.
We had things put in place so they wouldn't do it again to somebody else, which is even more important. And the most important, that then becomes a precedent for that next group that comes 5, 10 years from now. My 9-year-old, when she grows up, she can say, hey, my dad did it. I can do it too. And she has a voice. And that's really why we did this. It wasn't for me, it was for her. And that's truly what we won when we got the settlement.
It is not natural for liberty to thrive. There's always someone who wants to be a tyrant and who wants to take our liberty. So you must make an effort to fight the battle.
And I told people when we announced the settlement, they said, well, why is this important? Why is this important? I said, because in the future, if any group feels like they're being targeted, ever, they can go to federal court and bring our case that, the judge ruled and enjoined the IRS, said you can't do this anymore. And they can say, they're targeting me because of my politics, and you gotta stop them. And that's not gonna take 5 years. That's gonna take 5 minutes. That's a victory because it protects our rights going forward. How much better does it get than that? Particularly when you said, oh yeah, we're gonna fight the IRS. Oh yeah, we're gonna sue the US government. No one thought we could do it. We did it.
It is a critical time for our nation, and the American Center for Law and Justice is on the front lines, defending life and liberty, engaging the issues that matter most to you and your family. Whether it's working to protect Americans from the dangers of radical Islam and the persecution of Christians, to defending life at the U.S. Supreme Court, to protecting your religious and constitutional freedoms, we could not do this work without you, without your support. And now your support can really make a tremendous difference. For a limited time, you can participate in the ACLJ Matching Challenge. If you make a gift now, it will be doubled. $25 becomes $50. A $100 gift becomes $200. Please stand with the ACLJ right now and call 1-877-989-2255. That's 1-877-989-2255, or go online at aclj.org. Thank you for your support.